Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we are studying the Navi Yechezkel, the prophet Ezekiel, chapter 27. We are currently in the middle of the prophecies against Tyre. This is a series where Ezekiel turns his attention to the other nations, the nations that surrounded Israel. And in chapter 26, he described clearly how the people of Tyre, which was an island nation just off the coast of what's today Lebanon, just to the north of Israel. And Tyre had also gloated at the defeat of the people of Israel. And in punishment to that, Ezekiel declared that they would suffer the wrath of Nebuchadnezzar and destruction. I mentioned last time that this is a prophecy that's being stated prior to what we know historically as the siege of Tyre that was laid by Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. Unlike the other nations whom Ezekiel predicted their destruction, and they actually did get destroyed by the Babylonians, historically, later on, what actually happened to Tyre was that Nebuchadnezzar was unable to conquer Tyre by laying siege, and in the end, eventually Tyre did capitulate, but didn't suffer the utter destruction that was described by Ezekiel in the last chapter. And the last chapter, I mentioned that that maybe this is because the people of Tyre got the message, and that's certainly a plausible possibility that they were warned, the seed was laid, and they might have learned humility. They might have just realized that what the lesson that God was trying to teach them. In this chapter, we'll get some more hints as to exactly what might have happened to Tyre and why. And we'll learn a lot about the economy and commerce during that time period, which is extremely similar to economies and commerce today in a lot of ways. This is going to be quite a sophisticated speech by Ezekiel about commerce and what commerce means and what relationships between nations mean and why this should lead each nation to humility rather than to hubris. So let's begin chapter 27. Vayihi dvar Adonai elai lemar, and the word of God to me was as follows: V'atov en adam, you human beings, so al tzor kina, I want you to cry a lamentation or a dirge over the destruction and the end of Tzor. Right away, we notice that God just predicted, through Ezekiel, and just told him the prophecy of destruction. And now he's telling him, I want you to lament it. I want you to cry. Even though Tyre was the enemy of his people, the people of Ezekiel. God is trying to teach him the lesson that I, God, in other words, and so should you, Ezekiel, and so should everyone, all of us, you and I, realize that God does not want or seek the destruction of these people. However, what God really wants is for them to get the lesson, turn around, so that everyone can prosper. And this is what the lamentation should be. And from this lamentation, we're going to get a hint as to the destruction of Tzor, of Tyre. Verse 3, V'amarto l'Tzor, and I want you to say regarding Tyre, Hayosheves al mevo'ot yam, the one, the Tzor, the Tyre that lives in the gateways of the sea, Rochelet ta'amim, you are the merchant of the nations. You're the one that does business with all the nations. Everyone comes to you. Everyone delivers food and goods and commodities to you, and you deliver, you are the port where all commerce goes through. Eliyim rabim, all through all the other islands. Ko amar Adonai Elohim, so says the Lord God. Tzor at amart ani kelilat yofi. You used to say, I am the beautiful, beautiful city. When you used to say that, you brag about yourself and your greatness. Belev yamim gevulayach, your boundaries were throughout the seas. Bonayach kalalu yafyech, the people that built you, made you big and beautiful in the sea. And then we're going to describe the beauty and the might and the power and the global reach, so to speak, of the people of Tyre. Beroshim misnir ba'olach. They brought cypress trees from Sinir, es kol l'chosayim, in order to build the beams that you needed for your buildings. Erez milvanon lakachu. They took cedars from Lebanon, lasos Torah nalayich, in order to make the Torah is the masts of the ships. Alonim mi Bashan. They brought oak trees from the land of Bashan. Asu mishotayach. That's how they made the oars with which you rowed your boats. Karshech asu shein basurim. They made your beams for your building, and they made things out of shane, which is usually translated as ivory. They put into the beams to make them beautiful. And the ivory came Me'iye Kitim from the islands of Kitim, which apparently had populations of elephants from which they took ivory. Sheish birikma. They brought linen that was grown Mitzrayim, as we know that flax was grown in Egypt. Of hayam mifrasech, that's what they used as the cloths for your sails, lios lachlenes, so that people could see the sails from a long distance. Tchelet v'argaman, with blue and purple dyed wool, me'iye Elisha, which was brought from the islands of Elisha. Hayam chasech, those were what you used as your coverings and as your carpets and cloth. Yoshvei Sidon v'Arvad, the people that lived in Sidon and Arvad, hayu shatim lach. You brought those people into you. You were so wealthy and so powerful that everyone came in to you to be manual laborers, very similar to what we have today, where wealthy countries have manual laborers come from other countries to row for you. Chachamayach tzorayubach. You had the intelligent, skilled craftsmen within you, heimochovlayach, and they were the ones who led the ships, who were the supervisors of the ships, while the others did the manual labor. Ziknei Gival v'Chachamel Hayabach, the elders, the older intelligent people from Gival and all of her smart, educated people came to you, Machazike Bidkech. But for you, they were like nothing. In their place, they might have been the intelligent, educated ones, but compared to you, they were still just the ones who checked out your repairs and checked out your ships, and they were beneath you. Kol anios hayam, all of the ships of the sea, malachem, and all of the sailors, hayubach, they all came to you, la'arov ma'aravech, in order to trade and barter and do business. Poras v'lud ufutayu b'chelech, the people that came from Poras and Lud and Put, they were all mercenaries in your armies. Anshe milchamtech, they were mercenaries in your armies. Magen v'chovat tilubach, they were the ones that put on shields and helmets in order to defend you. Hema nasnu hadarech, they were the ones that made you into something with such splendor. We're getting the sense that that the wealth and might and majesty of Tyre was built upon their relationships with others, built upon goods and commodities that came from others, built upon labor from other places, built upon wisdom that was taken from other places. We're getting the idea that we're getting to the direction of learning what this lesson is going to be, that the people of Tyre did have a beautiful city, but they thought that it was all because of themselves and not because of what everyone else contributed to them. That was the source of the arrogance of Tyre. The arrogance of Tyre was that they didn't give the credit to all of those people, which made them so great. But I'm going to continue in verse 11. Bnei Arvad v'Chelech, people from Arvad and Chelech, al chomotayach saviv, they were the ones that surrounded your walls and defended you. V'gamadim b'migdalosayach hayu, and people from Gamad, they were the ones that defended your towers. Shiltehem tilu al chomotayach saviv, they hung their quivers full of arrows around your walls. Hema kalalu yafech, they were the ones who made you beautiful. Tarshish tochartech, the people of Tarshish, which was a faraway island, sometimes identified with I'm sorry, it slips my mind. But there's it's variously identified with different islands in the Mediterranean. Tochartech, they traded with you merov kolhon, because you had so much money, so therefore they came to bring their goods to you. Bekesef barzel bedil v'ofaris, and they dealt in silver and iron and tin and lead, nasnu izvonach, and that's what they did to trade your wares, to trade money and for your money. Yavan, Tuval, Vameshech, people from Yavan and Tuval and Meshech, more places. Hemo Rochlayach, they were the merchants with whom you traded. Benefesh Adam, and they traded in slaves. Uklei Nechoshes, which was looked upon as a commodity, human commodity. Uklei Nechoshes, and they traded in copper vessels. Nasnu Ma'aravech, that's what they gave in exchange for the human beings that they were trading. Mi Beit Togarma, from the place called Beit Togarma, Susimu Farashimu Furadim, that's where you got horses and riders and mules. Nasnu is Vonayach, that's what they traded in your ports. B'nai Dedan, the people from Dedan, Rochlayach, they also were your merchants. They also traded with you. Im Rabim Sechorat Yadech, so many islands, so many nations, so many places had and traded your goods. Karnot Chain, they traded in ivory horns. V'havnim Heshivu Eshkarech, and ebony they gave in tribute to you for your wealth. Aram Sochar Teich Merova Maasoyach, the people of Aram, they also traded with you because you had so many goods to trade with them. But Nofech, and what did they give you? They gave you Nofech, Argamon, Verikma, turquoise, purple, wool, embroidery, Uvutz, Viramot, V'chadkod, Nasvu Bizvonayach, and linen and coral and other expensive goods and stones. Yehuda ve'Eretz Yisrael, the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah, they also hemo rochlayach, they were also traded with you. B'chitemi nitu fanagu dvash v'shemen v'tzori, they brought you wheat and honey and oil and balm. That nasnu maravech, that's what those are commodities that you brought in from Judah and Israel. Damascus, Sochar Teich, Berov Masayach, Merov Kalhon, they also traded with you with so many valuable things, B'yein Chalbon, V'tzemer Tzachar, with white wool and a certain kind of wine, V'dan v'Yavan Uzal, and Dan and Yavan that came from the area of Uzal, Be'izvonayach Nasanu, they also traded with you. What did they trade? Barzel, Asos, Gidav, Koneb, Maravechaya, they trafficked in iron and other goods, cassia and calamus. Not sure what all these things are, but I think you get the point. The Dan rochal teche bevidei chofesh l'richba arav v'chol nesiei kedar. So the Dan traded with you in saddlecloths. Arabia and all the people from Kedar, Hema sochar yadech, they traded with you. B'karim ve'elim v'atudim bam socharech, they traded in lambs and rams and goats. Rochle Shiva, the people from Shiva, which is somewhere in modern-day Sudan or Ethiopia, Verama, Hemorochlaych, they came Barosh Kalbosim with spices of Cholev and Yikara and valuable stones, Vizahav and gold, Nasnu Zvonayach, they gave in exchange. Charon v'Chanei ve'Eden, Rochle Shiva, Ashdud, Kilmad, Rochalteich, these other places also traded with you. Hemorochlaych b'Machlulim, these were all the ones who traded with you in all these fabrics, beglomei tchelet, with blue wool, verikma, ubeginze beromim, bachavolim, chavushim, baruzim, b'marchulteich. I'm sorry if I don't translate each thing, but I think the idea that Ezekiel is trying to convey is understood. Eniyot Tarshish, the ships from Tarshish, shorotayich, ma'aravech, vatimali, vatichbedi, ma'od belev yamim. All the ships from Tarshish, they were all served in your industry and trade, and they all became full and heavy in the seas, full of the merchandise that they traded in your ports. B'mayim rabim heviyuch hashatimosach, those that rowed their boats to you, they came they brought you through heavy waters or great waters. In other words, the people that rowed their ships came through the waters and helped the process that the waters, that your location in the sea became so valuable. Ruach HaKodim shivarech b'lev yamim. But then an easterly wind, which typically means a destructive wind, shivarech, smashed you in the middle of the sea. Now, even though I'm at verse 26 now, even though the actual destruction did not come through the siege of Nebuchadnezzar, but Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon destroyed all of these, well, not all, but a large percentage of the countries that we just mentioned, and ended up controlling all of the trade, which in the end did bring Tyre to its heels. So Tyre, because its source of pride was so artificial, it didn't give credit to all of these nations and all of these peoples that contributed to making Tyre beautiful, but thought that it was all them and took the credit all for themselves, rather than all of the other people from all of these other countries with all of the commodities that they offered that actually made Tyre great, and all of the wisdom that they contributed to their shipbuilding and their buildings and so on. That was the source of the pride of Tyre, and that Nebuchadnezzar did break and did smash and did bring Tyre down, which is why in the next verse 27, we're going to read as follows: all of your wealth and all of your money and all of your goods, all of the people who sailed, all of the people who were the supervisors of your ships, all of those mercenaries that you hired, all of the people you made deals with, all and so on, that were within you, everyone, all of the congregation, all the people that lived within you, when you fall, they will all fall. Which also, of course, means the converse. When they all fall, you fall. Your whole greatness falls when they fall. When the people that are running your ship start to cry because they're destroyed, your ashu migroshos, then all of the places will shake and tremble. They'll all have to come out of their ships. All those people that are rowing the oars, bringing goods back and forth, malachim, all of the sailors, all of those that run the ships, the captains of the ships, they'll all be stuck in the land. There'll be no more commerce going back and forth. And then they're going to raise out their voices regarding you, and they're all going to cry. Everyone's going to cry. Everyone's going to be heard. They'll place dirt on their heads. Cover themselves with ashes. They'll tear out their hair. And wear sackcloth and cry over you with bitter laments and brokenhearted. And all of their children will start crying out in a lamentation and lament over you. Who is like Tsar which was who is like Tsar that is now silent within the sea? Bitseit is vonayach miamim. When all of your wares are no longer in the sea, when they're emptied out of the sea, hispat amim rabim. When all of your wares were being delivered across the sea, you satisfied so many nations with all of your wealth. Everyone else got wealthy from you, just like you got wealthy from them. This is verse 34. For when you became wrecked on the seas, follow everything, and everyone that lives within you all fell. So in other words, when the commerce fell, you fell. And then all the people that depended on you for business, they are all appalled over your downfall. The kings have lost their source of commerce. They've torn out their hair. Their faces become saddened, and their faces become twisted with grief. This is verse 36. Those that were businessmen, the merchants among the nations, sharku alayach, they hissed and cried over you. Balahos ha'isa, you have become something horrible, something horrifying. Ve'einech ad olam, and no longer forever do you exist. We get the idea. I know this was a little lengthy, but that's how Ezekiel wrote it. But I think he effectively gave us the impression and understanding of what the downfall of Tyre was. Whether Nebuchadnezzar conquered them in a siege or not is really not that important. The idea is that the destruction came because the commerce ended, and it forced Tyre to realize that there was never anything so great about us when we were us alone. It was all the people, all the connections, and the commerce that we had, and the wisdom that we shared with others that made us great. We all need to take this to this lesson, both on a national level and on a personal level, and understand that none of our greatness is because of us alone. All of our greatness, whatever we do achieve that is great, is always going to be, at least to a large extent, if not almost completely, due to all of the people and groups and countries that we were influenced by, that we were helped by, that we have done business with, that we have talked to, that we have learned from, etc. Thank you so much for studying Ezekiel 27 together. Looking forward to studying Ezekiel 28 and, of course, the rest of the book together.